This episode contains discussion of domestic abuse, drug and alcohol abuse, sexual assault, and mentions of suicide. Listener discretion is advised.
On April 11, 2022, the trial that took over everyone's lives began. Johnny Depp sued Amber Heard for defamation due to an op-ed she wrote for The Washington Post where she referred to herself as a, quote, public figure representing domestic abuse. He was asking for $50 million while she countersued for $100 million. Both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard alleged domestic abuse from the other.
This case took over so many people's lives at the time. I watched a lot of that trial in real time. Man, did I watch a lot of that trial. I like called my boss and I was like, I quit. Okay. Because I need to watch this trial. Just kidding. But thank goodness we could use it for work because I really wanted to watch it.
Absolutely. And it only took, over a year to turn it into work, but here we are.
Exactly. Well, not true. We did it on our Spotify show. So yeah. What we're going to do with this, now that it has been litigated, now we do know Amber Heard's team is appealing it. You're going to see a lot of stuff on the internet about new evidence. Mm-hmm. But the appeal is not for new evidence. The appeal is for anything that happened in the first trial. Like they can't come in and be like, well, you can't, because otherwise you'd be doing a new trial.
Well, you can't use new evidence in an appeal. You just can't.
Correct. Yeah. So, and we are aware of the new evidence, the unsealed documents and all that. And, maybe we'll do a whole video on that. But for right now, we're going to do kind of leading up to, and then this court case.
And this is a two-parter.
And it's a two-parter. That's right. So, if you want to have both parts back to back, just like one, the other, boom, boom, then you want to be a patron because you'll get that immediately. Both of them ad-free. Otherwise, and no problems, if you're not a patron, ain't no thing. You'll just get part 2 next week.
Yes. And we would like to thank Beth for writing this up.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. And I guess thank you to both of us for suggesting it.
Yeah, exactly. Johnny Depp and Amber Heard met on the set of The Rum Diary in 2009. Both were in relationships with other people at the time, so Johnny was still with his longtime partner, Vanessa Paradis, a French actress, probably Paradis. Vanessa and Johnny do have 2 children together, Lily Rose and Jack. Amber was dating photographer Tasha Van Ree, maybe? Or Tasha? I'm not sure. In 2011, Amber told Vogue, quote, working with Johnny was torture. It was better than I ever imagined, which is really saying something. In 2012, Johnny and Vanessa amicably separated after 14 years together.
I was shocked by that news when it came out.
I was too. I mean, because we know them or something, but yeah, it's like they were together forever,
Mm-hmm.
That's a long ass time. Shortly after this, Johnny and Amber began dating. So in March of 2014, they got engaged, and the engagement was confirmed after Johnny Depp showed the ring on his left hand and told the press, because somebody, I can't remember who it was an interview, they were asking him, it was definitely a late night show, and he was like, what's going on with this? And
the fact that I'm wearing a chick's ring on my finger is probably a dead giveaway, isn't it?
The couple married in 2015, and they had 2 separate ceremonies, one at Depp's home in Los Angeles, and then one at his private island in the Bahamas. Are you really anybody if you didn't have 3 ceremonies? But what am I to say?
Well, and I don't like to host many things on my private island. I just don't.
It's the whole thing, isn't it?
Well, and you got to do the cleanup, and it's just too much, so.
Exactly, yeah. So, if that's what he wants to do.
I like to keep my private island for pickleball tournaments only.
Oh, sure. Only. So the marriage lasted 15 months. Amber filed for divorce in May of 2016, citing
you can say
irreconcilable differences.
Sound it out. There it is.
I know I've heard that word before. I have said that word. I have spelled that word. And just now my brain said, you're not saying that word. That's a no can do for me. The same month that she filed for divorce, she was granted a restraining order against Johnny over allegations of domestic violence. So she alleged that he had thrown a cell phone at her during a fight and that it hit her on her face near her eye. She also stated that he had screamed at her, hit her, violently grabbed her face, and pulled her hair. And she had photographic evidence of a bruise on her face that she submitted to the court when filing for the restraining order. She stated in her filing, quote, "During the entirety of our relationship, Johnny has been verbally and physically abusive to me. I endured excessive emotional, verbal, and physical abuse from Johnny, which has included angry, hostile, humiliating, and threatening assaults to me whenever I questioned his authority or disagreed with him. It's very difficult for me to read this statement without rolling my eyes because I have heard all of the voice recordings." But anyway.
We know too much to give an unbiased, like, here's what happened, then here's what happened, then here's what happened, then here's what happened. But
yeah,
I also will say, because, if you watched the trial in real time, you got that, right? There's also, Netflix just came out with Depp v. Heard, and it's a 3-part. And that's also really, really, really interesting to watch because you see them side by side rather than like, oh, here's all of Johnny Depp's, here's all of Amber Heard. So.
Yeah, definitely. And also, I mean, another thing that we both have watched, you told me about it, was Swoop on YouTube. She's got, 5 or 6 videos on this case now?
I think it's a total of 6, yeah.
I mean, she went through, like, maybe week by week or something of the trial, but she would, and immediately, like, painstakingly put this stuff together. And it's very clear that she is not a fan of Amber Heard in her coverage. But I also feel like she really is just showing you, like, she's saying, like, okay, this is how I feel about it, but somebody else might feel a different way about it. But this is what is actually, like, we can prove.
Yeah.
Not just inflammatory statements and whatever. So her coverage is really interesting.
I just love Swoop. And I'm so proud of her. She was mentioned, like, she was quoted and cited.
She was in the Netflix thing.
Ooh,
yeah.
Good for her.
I mean, what a, like,
I know.
Oh my gosh. Like, Netflix fucking knows who I am. She also wrote that she was living in fear that Johnny would return to the house unannounced to terrorize her physically and emotionally. Johnny denied all allegations of abuse. His lawyers alleged in a 2016 document that Amber, quote, was attempting to secure a premature financial resolution alleging abuse. In August of 2016, TMZ shared a video of Johnny Depp throwing a wine bottle and a glass in the couple's kitchen with Amber in the room. The video shows Johnny yelling, he's slamming cabinets, he's kicking doors. I forget what he's saying. He's like, "Oh, you had a bad day? Oh, you had a fucking bad day?" And like, he is losing his cool for sure.
Very, very upset.
The full video clip, though, shows Amber kind of egging him on and then smirking at the camera when she decided to finish filming him. The clip that was released in the beginning was just him and his outburst. But at the end, she kind of turns the camera on herself and kind of like smirks and
like, got him. Like, I don't know.
Exactly. Later that month, the divorce was settled. A joint statement at the time of the divorce came out from Johnny and Amber, which said, quote, "Our relationship was intensely passionate and at times volatile, but always bound by love. Neither party has made false accusations for financial gain. There was never any intent of physical or emotional harm." At the time of the divorce, Amber pledged to donate.
So
just put a pin in that word.
Well, and we will get into it, but I think that it is important to note that the word pledged and donate are used in the sentence to say...
And they are not redundant.
To say that first you do this and then you do this.
Pledged to donate. And it's not the same thing as saying,
pledged to pledge.
I walk here, yeah. So she pledged to donate $7 million from Johnny to the American Civil Liberties Union. I cannot say words today.
This is going to be, it's good for podcasting. I'll tell you that right now.
It's perfect for podcasting, yeah. So the ACLU.
There you go, yeah.
And the Children's Hospital in Los Angeles. In December of that year, Johnny requested $100,000 in court sanctions from Amber. Court documents from Johnny's legal team said that Amber was continuing to needlessly litigate a case that had been settled, all while parading in front of the media in what they called a desperate attempt to extend her 15 minutes of fame. Johnny also asked to deduct the same from his next equalization payment if Amber failed to contribute that amount to his attorney's fees and costs as sanctions. Amber's attorney said that the move was, quote, just another lame attempt by Mr. Depp and his team to not pay my client the money she is owed. In January of 2016, Amber responded to Johnny's request in court sanctions and assured the court that she was committed to a quick resolution of their divorce. She made a statement that Johnny was delaying the resolution of the matter and that she wanted her life back. A judge ruled that she did not have to pay his attorney's fees, and then the divorce was finalized that same month. As a part of their settlement, the restraining order against Johnny was dismissed with prejudice. And if it is dismissed with prejudice, this means permanently dismissed. It cannot be brought back to court for any reason. In the divorce settlement, Amber was given custody of the dogs. We're going to talk about those dogs.
Yes, we are.
Johnny retained sole possession of all of his properties, including the private island in the Bahamas, and he was also granted his collection of classic cars and motorcycles.
I feel like such a loser.
Well, he's like uber rich, But also, I feel like it's just interesting in general that they even got married. Like, he didn't marry Vanessa, and he was with her 14 years, and they had 2 kids together and all that. But he married Amber, and it was definitely a whirlwind kind of thing. And we'll talk about it more as we get into it. But he didn't do a prenup before they got married. It feels like he kind of fell under her spell a little bit. I was like, let's get married. Let me throw everything that I've ever been cautious about before to the wind, basically.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like this entire relationship that they had was completely out of character for him as a person, because he seemed to be very careful of not doing these things in the past. I mean, I don't know. But I will say this, though, because I have been divorced. And while it was a very easy divorce, I think that it is really, really interesting that, and sometimes people don't have this situation and sometimes people do, but it's interesting to hear about other people's divorces because they can get ugly really, really quickly. Divorce changes people. It changes because you're like, they would never. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then you start talking about money is a big thing. I'm sure kids are a big thing, and people just get downright ugly. Yes.
Yeah. Any kind of asset. Yeah. It's very much like the breakup where they're just like, okay, like, we'll go about this in a mature way or whatever. And then they fight over everything.
Right. And sometimes, and mine was super easy, the easiest divorce of all times. But sometimes it's like you just do things to be spiteful to each other just because you're like, like.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. It's really, divorce is not fun, not for nobody. So, Johnny Depp sued The Sun in June of 2018 for $39 million for calling him a wife beater. The headline for the article was, quote, "Gone potty. How can J.K. Rowling be genuinely happy casting wife beater Johnny Depp in the new Fantastic Beasts film?"
I'm sure that I could go through all the court documents and stuff like that, but that's pretty bold. Calling him a wife beater in a national or, global publication.
Yeah. You're not alluding to anything. You're not alluding to even who you're talking about. Right there, wife beater Johnny Depp. That's a bold move, Cotton. And I do think it's important to note, too, I have never read The Sun. I don't know anything about it, but what I've heard about it is it's not your upper echelon publication. It's kind of like the National Enquirer. So here, anyway. The trial took place in London and lasted 16 days, and Amber alleged 14 instances of abuse during the trial. Johnny described her allegations as, quote, sick and a hoax, while claiming that Amber was the aggressor. On the first day of testimony, Johnny revealed that he had began using drugs at a young age when he was not in a particularly stable household. He told the court that his mother would ask him to, quote, go and get her nerve pills, and that it was around the age of 11 that it dawned on him that they were calming her nerves, so he took one and that began his drug use. Johnny also told the court that he had been in recovery from drugs and alcohol during significant parts of his marriage to Amber and accused her of encouraging him to relapse instead of supporting his sobriety. During his cross-examination, he was asked if he had ever encouraged his daughter, Lily Rose, to try weed when she was 13. He said that he never encouraged her to use marijuana. He said, quote, my daughter was 13 years old, and as we all know, at 11, 12, 13 years old, when you go to high school parties, you are approached by people who will want to give you a drink because you were drinking. I found that to be 11 seems young, 12 maybe. I just was not living. We were very sheltered kids, so we weren't we weren't doing that kind of stuff then, but...
Well, and as we get older, the stuff that kids are exposed to gets younger and younger and younger. Absolutely. Because social media, internet, all that stuff. Plus, they are like super rich. I mean, her dad's Johnny Depp, so she's probably like hanging out with people who have unfettered access to things that we wouldn't.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know?
Coming from my little weasel life, I'm like, 11? What? But, okay. He went on to say that he told her, quote, "Listen, sweetheart, if you are at a party and someone hands you the joint, you take the joint from that person and you pass it on to the next person. Don't experiment with drugs with people you don't know." He explained that he had asked Lily Rose to come to him when she felt, quote unquote, ready, because he didn't want her first experience to be with people she didn't know and taking things she couldn't trust, and that it was a safety issue. He said that when she later came to him wanting to try marijuana, he consulted with her mom, Vanessa, who also talked to her about it. Johnny also accused Amber of punching him in April of 2016, the same night he found out that he owed the US government millions of dollars in unpaid taxes. He had found out that his former business managers had stolen money from him, and he wasn't aware of the amount of money that he had made from the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and he ended up owing back taxes because he was unaware of his financial status. The news of this debt came to him on the day of Amber's 30th birthday party, and he showed up late. And Amber had previously claimed that Johnny had pulled her hair and thrown things at her that night, but at the trial, he claimed that she was the one who was violent and throwing quote-unquote haymaker punches at him. During the trial, Amber Heard's ex-assistant accused her of exploiting her sexual assault story. She testified that Amber used her sexual assault story in her own accusations against Johnny Depp. Kate James worked for Amber from 2012 to 2015, and she testified that she had described her rape at machete point to Amber and said that Amber used the same story as her own in her witness statement. That's big, man. I think that's bad.
Not a good look.
The trial also revealed that Elon Musk offered Amber 24/7 security after she told him that Johnny had abused her. A text from Musk to Amber read, quote, "The offer would stand even if you never want to see me again. Anyway, sorry for being an idiot. The radio silence hurts a lot. It only matters because I really like you." His attorneys for the case were Jenny Afia and David Sherborne. Amber Heard was a testifying witness for the paper, and for this trial, Johnny requested recordings that Amber had of the two of them, but she refused to send them. Amber testified in this trial, and when compared to her testimony in their divorce proceedings, the stories did not match.
It's a big thing with Amber Heard. The stories do not match. You can look at her depositions from the divorce stuff, and they will tell her, "Hey, in your deposition you said XYZ." And she's like, "No, I didn't."
Unfortunately, Johnny Depp lost the case against the Sun, and the judge said in the ruling, quote, "Although he has proved the necessary elements of his cause of action in libel, the defendants have shown that what they published in the meaning, which I have held the words to bear, was substantially true." What does that mean?
I guess they mean, like...
Johnny makes a good case, but...
It sounded like the judge found Johnny to have been abusive, and therefore was like, well, then what they wrote was true? I don't know.
After losing the libel trial, Warner Brothers requested that Johnny resign from his role as Grindelwald in the Fantastic Beasts series. He said of this during the trial, quote, "I would be a real simpleton to not think that there was an effect on my career based on Miss Heard's words, whether they mentioned my name or not." And that's absolutely true. In 2021, Johnny and his legal team contested the 2020 ruling and brought, quote, fresh evidence in regard to Amber's charity donations in the divorce settlement. He claimed that she had not made the payments, but ultimately he was denied permission to appeal the ruling.
So, in March of 2019, Johnny Depp filed a $50 million lawsuit against Amber Heard, alleging that she had defamed him in her Washington Post op-ed. In the op-ed, Amber never mentions Johnny by name, but his legal team says, well, she didn't have to. It was obvious who she was accusing. In her op-ed, she stated, quote, "I became a public figure representing domestic abuse, and I felt the full force of our culture's wrath for women who speak out." She stated that she was told by friends and advisors that she would never work as an actress again. She says she was dropped by a global fashion brand and that her role as Mara in the Justice League and Aquaman movies was in question. After the libel trial, well, and she also in the op-ed gives specific times, like years, 2015 to 2016, like Well, that's when you were married to Johnny, so.
Yeah, who do we
Like,
think
obviously.
you're...
Yeah, that's who you're talking about. After the libel trial took place in London in the summer of 2020, Amber Heard countersued Johnny Depp for $100 million, alleging that he orchestrated a, quote, smear campaign against her. She said that his lawsuit was a continuation of, quote, abuse and harassment. In her filing, she asked the court to grant her immunity from Johnny's complaint and asked for compensation for damages that he caused. The defamation case against Amber Heard started on April 11, 2022 in Fairfax, Virginia. The Washington Post has printing facilities in the state of Virginia, which allowed Johnny Depp the opportunity to sue there instead of in California, where both parties work and reside. And from what I understand, from what I've read and everything, it had to do with Virginia's laws regarding defamation. So it seemed like that would be the most beneficial for him. During the 7-week trial, both Johnny Depp and Amber Heard took the stand and were questioned by their own attorneys as well as cross-examined by opposing attorneys. The attorneys representing Johnny Depp were Benjamin Chu and Camille Vasquez, and the attorneys for Amber Heard were Ben Rottenborn and Elaine Bredehoft. And Elaine Bredehoft is where we get the I think that's bad, right? It was her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because she at one point said during the trial, I don't remember.
Well, so we'll talk about it later, but there were tons of TikToks about this case at the time. And this one woman, she was playing Elaine Bredehoft in her TikTok, and she's cross-examining Johnny Depp. And she talks about the mega pint of wine.
Oh, the mega pint. Uh-huh.
And she's like, I heard that you were drinking a mega pint of wine. I think that's bad. And it's
yes.
Yeah. So
yeah. There's no shortage of TikToks on this trial. My gosh. But it's something we still quote to this day.
Oh, yes.
It was a funny TikTok. So the judge in the trial was Penny Ascarate, and we're going to discuss some of the highlights of their testimonies next. And you can still go back and watch all these. Law and Crime Network has a whole playlist on it. There were a lot of places where it streamed. You can also, if you want to watch more succinct videos where it's just the highlights of testimony, people have made all kinds of stuff. So there is no shortage. Go and watch for yourself if you want to. Go and listen to the recordings yourself. Don't take our word for it if you don't want to.
Exactly.
Both Johnny and Amber testified about the beginning of their relationship. And Johnny talked about how at first Amber seemed too good to be true. He would come home from work, she would remove his boots for him and pour him a glass of wine. And he told the jury that one day he got home, Amber's on the phone, and so he goes to take his own boots off because, I can do that, right?
Right.
And she goes over and is like, no, that's my job. Amber is going to go on to say that Johnny love bombed her in the beginning of this relationship. This could definitely be categorized as love bombing, right? She did everything for him in the beginning. That's my job. I'm supposed to take care of you.
It's also incredibly, this is just me personally, it's just creepy. It's just fucking weird.
I'm sorry, you could not pay me even millions of dollars to take my husband's shoes off for him at the end of the day.
What?
Stanky feet. No, I don't think so. But then he talked about how it wasn't his choice as to what time he would go to bed. If Amber was ready, he had to go to bed. If she wasn't ready, he stayed up, kind of thing. When Amber spoke about the beginning of their relationship, she said more than once that she was with the love of her life and they were super happy. So Johnny also testified about his drug and alcohol abuse and that he didn't use it for partying. He used these things to numb the pain. And he claims that Amber would use this as a weapon against him. And he spoke about the abuse that he suffered as a child and how he learned about the nerve pills from his mother. And he said that when he was as young as 5 years old, his mother would ask him to bring her the nerve pills from her purse. He would notice that when she took them, she would calm down. So around the age of 11, he would bring her a pill when she asked for one, then take one himself because he wanted to feel calm too. And Johnny said that his mother was violent. She was unpredictable. She was abusive to him, his siblings, and his father. And he described his father as being a kind and quiet man. He was very non-confrontational. And his father, he said, would just take the abuse from his mother. And he talked about her throwing ashtrays at their heads and I don't know if any of you have grown up with a smoker parent or whatever, but during that time, I don't even know what ashtrays really look like now because you never see them anymore.
No.
But they were big, thick glass. Everybody in their home in the 70s, 80s, 90s, if you had an ashtray in your house, it was a big, thick like
Yes, it was
glass,
massive.
super heavy.
And sometimes, especially in the 80s, probably a brown amber color. I don't know why, but they always were. But we had a mother who smoked, like a freight train. All she did was smoke. But this ashtray, it was big and just thick glass. So if somebody's throwing that at you, you're either going to get hurt or you better run. I don't know.
And I watched this testimony. Like, I watched him testify about this. He's an actor. I get that. His testimony seemed very believable to me, but I do understand that he's an actor. But some of the things that he said and the way that he talked about things lined up with what I would expect. And I have been in a physically abusive relationship before. So I have kind of a baseline, or just, okay, yeah, that resonates with me because that's what I experienced. And one of the things that I really loved in the last Swoop doc, I think I watched on this, I haven't watched all of hers, but I watched the one on the new evidence. She says, obviously, people who have been abused react in many different ways. So if you resonate with Amber Heard's story, then that's fine. If you're resonating with her interpretation and her perspective and all of those things and her story and the way that she reacted and like all those things, that's fine. I personally, between the two of them, resonated much more with Johnny's, the way he told stuff, the way he talked about it, just all of those things, some of the phrases that he used and all of that, it just seemed more like what I experienced. So I'm not going to say that Amber never experienced any abuse, but again, we'll talk about it more, but just her reactions, the way that she treated things, the way that she acted, some of the words that she says, the way that she behaved on the stand.
Well, I was going to say, because one of the biggest things with her on the stand that really turned me off to her as a witness, I don't know the right way to say it, but was how much it seemed like she was pleading to the jury, look at me. It just felt very fake to me personally. There's something about her that does not feel genuine. It just doesn't. And I'm sorry. I know that we have talked incessantly about the fact that how you react to something is not evidence of anything. Like, it's not, people have all different kinds of ways that they react to all different kinds of things. But I'm seeing her on the stand. My experience, allegedly, what I am seeing is her trying to muster up tears, but they're not coming. But she's making the faces, she's making the noises, but I don't see one tear.
Well, and she was very, argumentative at times and things like that. And it really, really reminded me of the Jodi Arias trial, where Jodi Arias was just, giving it to the DA. And he says at one point something like, you're not afraid to speak up or speak down to or whatever, to people when they're, whatever, because that's what she's doing in that moment. And she said, no, I only will, act this way or whatever when men like you are trying to make me feel small or something like that. And I just thought, isn't that what you said Travis was doing? But you were terrified of him and and here you are reacting in an aggressive way. Again, does that mean that can never happen? No, that was not my experience. And that was not the experience of a lot of people who chimed in about this particular trial. And we'll get into it, but again, that just didn't resonate with me. Johnny said that he did suffer abuse from Amber, and of course, all of these things are alleged. He said that his only ambition in life was to be a good father, but Amber would tell him all the time that he was a bad father. And he said, quote, bits of your brain, bits of your heart, a valve gets shut off. And he's describing how he felt when Amber would talk about him as a father. And he said that Amber has, quote, a need for conflict, a need for violence. He said that while Amber wanted to fight, he would suggest separating when conflict arose. And Johnny was asked why he stayed in the relationship despite the abuse, and he said it was probably because his father stayed in his relationship, and also that Amber would threaten suicide if he were to leave.
That is something that I wish we could get in the habit of. Let's stop asking victims of abuse, why did you stay?
How come you didn't leave? Yeah. There's a million reasons why I stayed. And
it's victim blaming.
Absolutely. And a lot of times you start to believe what this person is telling you. And she, according to his testimony, she knew how important it was to him to be a good father. And so she attacked that.
Yeah.
She cut him down in that area. He says, she knew that would be very effective. During his testimony, Johnny said it was his idea that they start to record their conversations. And he claims that he started doing this because Amber wouldn't remember what she had said to his face the night before.
This is just coming from me. I think that if I was in a similar situation to this, or something where I felt like I was being gaslit or whatever, I would absolutely want to record those conversations, because then you can go back yourself even and listen to it and be like, no, I heard what I heard.
Exactly, because you've got somebody being like, I never said that, I didn't do that. And he's like, well, no, I'm pretty sure you did. Like, yeah, now he has that. And I believe when we did this topic on the Spotify live show we used to have, I believe that what I read at that time was that they started recording their conversations with each other at their marriage counselor's request. For that reason.
I remember that as well.
Yeah, be able to refer back to it, or, you know, somebody's like, well, I never said that, or you didn't tell me that, or whatever, like that they could go back and replay them and hash things out. Or
I don't see a negative consequence of recording a conversation that you both are privy to and both understand that it's being recorded. I don't see how that could go wrong, because sometimes people say things that they wish the other person would maybe forget. And sometimes You're like, shit, I should not have said that. And I hope that they don't remember that, right? But if this is a constant within the relationship of, you know, you don't remember what you said, or your words really hurt me, and they want to downplay, dismiss, whatever. Or you are thinking, did I hear that right? Because now I'm being told that I was wrong. I don't see how there's a negative
right,
repercussion.
Like, this was said and it hurt me, and then you bring it up to them and they're like, well, I didn't say that. Or, I mean, commonly with things like this, I didn't even say that, so forget it. Or you misunderstood what I meant by that. Okay, I said that, that's not what I meant. Or I said that, but because you said something to me, but you know, it's like, they're going to do those things, deflect, dismiss, and they'll just straight up tell you it never happened.
Or
gaslighting.
Absolutely. And I've had situations with different people in my life, not a ton, thank God, but there have been people in my life where I'm like, man, looking back on it, it would have been a good idea to possibly record some of these conversations, because some people, they will wear your ass out, talk, and then finally you're like, oh my God, forget it. Like, let's just pretend we never even started this conversation, because I'm tired of doing this.
Exactly. I mean, that's another form of abuse. Think about coerced confessions, you know, when people finally get to the point where they say, okay, I did it, you know?
Because they're
Melissa Lucio, we just covered that case.
Yes.
They're worn out. It has gone on so long, and they understand that as long as I keep saying I did not do this, that's not what they want to hear, right? And they're, you know, I'm under the impression that as long as I tell them what they want to hear, this will be over. It'll be over if I just tell them what they want to hear, so I'll do it. It's a very similar situation with these kinds of things. All right, so now we're going to highlight the main abuse allegations and then how their testimonies differed from each other. So starting with Amber's description of the first time that Johnny allegedly abused her. So she told the court that it was over Johnny's Winona Ryder tattoo. And if you don't know, Johnny and Winona dated long time ago, from 1989 to 1993, and they were one of the 90s most iconic celebrity couples.
Oh, they were big time, man.
Big time. And during that relationship, Johnny got a tattoo that said Winona forever, but then they broke up. And so he changed it to Wino forever. Amber testified that she and Johnny had been on the couch. Johnny had been drinking. He'd been doing cocaine. She asked him what his tattoo said on his arm, because it's kind of difficult to see now. It's old. It's kind of faded.
Well, and I mean, it's either a cover up or a removal. I don't know how they did that, but yeah.
I believe it was a cover up. Yeah, but yeah. And so he told her that it said Wino, and she laughed because she thought he was kidding. And she says that because she laughed, he slapped her across the face. And she said that she laughed again because she couldn't believe that he had hit her, and she was kind of waiting for it to be just kidding, or she gives some very detailed information here. She says he slapped her across the face. She fell down into the floor, and she's staring at, she said, the dirty carpet. The carpet was just so dirty, and she just was looking at this dirty carpet and was thinking, did he just hit me? Did he just actually hit me? And I thought it was a joke, and I was waiting for him to be just kidding. It's some kind of prank or whatever.
And it's but okay, I cannot not be a shit about these kinds. And I don't think that's any secret how I feel about Amber Heard in this trial. I'm not saying that she didn't suffer any abuse. That's not at all what I am trying to say. But it's just, I don't like Amber Heard. I'm sorry, I just don't like her. But and that's neither here nor there. We're gonna get the facts, but we are gonna interject some of our own, whatever. But it just felt like close up on Amber Heard, close up on the dirty carpet, close up on Amber Heard, close up on the dirty carpet. She just kept going back to this dirty carpet, and I'm like, we get it. I don't know.
Yeah, and what is, again, there are no human lie detectors. There's nobody that says, there are people who like specialize in body language or whatever, but there's nobody who's going to be able to look at any person and definitively be like, yeah, they're lying or they're telling the truth, whatever. But a sign of not necessarily telling the truth is including a lot of very like
Useless.
useless details. And she focuses on this carpet quite a bit. And I will also say, because, obviously we're going to talk about this entire case in, 2 episodes and whatever. But I will say the reason that we find her less credible because she's been proven to have lied on the stand.
Yes.
And she did this in depositions. And she did, there are documented situations where she is untruthful, which then casts doubt on every other bit of her testimony. It just does. If she really, really did experience this abuse, that does such a disservice to every other woman who is trying to speak out about their own abuse. Because even if these things are true, she has been shown to tell so much other things that are not true.
I don't know how to say this. Because I don't know what is true and what is not true that she is saying. There's some things where I'm like, well, you said it here, and then you turned around and said it this way this other time. So maybe that's not true. Very least, let's say that she has embellished, but she's done it a lot. Lot. And that's like what you're saying. Like, it doesn't, her either being an unwanted or I don't know if she chose to be this, what would you call it? Like this, I almost had it. This, oh my God, what is the word? I want you to just know what I'm thinking.
Sometimes I do, but this time I don't. This would be a good spot for the 2 hours later.
Exactly. Why can't I think of the word?
I don't know.
But this person who is domestic abuse, right? She's the one who is...
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I'm saying?
She's the symbol of...
Yes.
This is what I've been through. Yeah.
Yes. Whether or not it was intentional or not, to be proven to be uncredible, like you said, not helping anybody. So...
No, and I would argue that she intentionally became the figure for domestic violence because she wrote the op-ed in the Washington Post that said, I am a figure for domestic violence, and now I'm suffering our culture's wrath, just like every other woman, because that's her experience, who has faced domestic violence has done. Like, she's calling herself that she's a public figure for domestic violence. She's this activist and all this stuff. You do a disservice if you're trying to make it seem worse or whatever it is that she's trying to do.
Right.
Either it's not true, or if it is true, whatever it is that she's trying to do by embellishing things and just straight up lying about stuff. Like, there is that picture that she took that shows this bruise on her face right here. There is a redness there. There is something there.
Yeah.
Almost like what do they call those? Like a strawberry, like where it's like, where if you were to do this and it gets red, like.
Oh, yeah.
It's red. It doesn't look to be like a purple, black, blue bruise. And it could just be that it was early enough that it wasn't that, whatever. That's fine. I see something there. I do. There are 2 photos side by side that they pull up in court. One of them, they are the exact same photo. She is looking down in the same exact way, the same position with her body and everything. Her hair even falls exactly the same way. Everything is the exact same. She testifies on the stand that neither of those images are edited. Clearly one of them, like the brightness was brought up or something, just so that you could see that a little bit better.
And that is what we in the biz call editing. Even if you change the brightness, that's edited.
And I don't fault anyone for that. I don't care about that. Like, because you can see it kind of in both situations. In one version of the picture, it is more clear. Okay, fine. I don't care about that. But she gets on the stand and says, absolutely, I did not edit that photo. Nobody edited that photo. What happened was I took one picture, then I got up and turned on an additional light, the vanity light, which has a warmer tone to it. And then I went and stood in the same spot and did everything the exact same with my body. And I took that picture again, but just one with the light on, one with the light off. That's what you're seeing there. That's just not true. And if you did say, like, in these situations, you've got to be honest about it. Because again, that is going to have the jury that cast doubt for everything else that she said, because they can see it. They can see that picture and they can say, No, it was edited. Like, you brought the lighting up a little bit at the very least.
Well, and the thing is, you could say, yes, it was edited. I changed the contrast. I changed the brightness. I changed whatever you want to say. And that's as far as you can, yes, it was edited, but that's the only thing that was edited. It's the exact same thing as what she's saying she did, quote unquote, she did with getting up and turning on an additional light. It's the exact same. Produces the exact same result.
Well, exactly. And I don't think anybody, I'm sure that saying
it was
phrase,
edited.
I edited the photo, it definitely would look bad and stuff like that. But
lying about it.
It's also very clear that it was edited. There's just no way possible. I invite every single one of you to try this, to take one picture of yourself and then go get up, turn a light on, sit back down,
and do the exact same
and
thing.
Take the exact same photo.
With your hair the exact same way, the exact angle of your face, like everything. And
have the same timestamp, because they had the same timestamp. I mean, it's just not possible. And so that in and of itself kills your credibility, because again, the jury can see these two pictures.
Yeah.
And they're like, something's happened, right?
Well,
it's just.
And I think that if you want to be more credible and believable and likable to a jury, saying they were edited, probably not great. Lying, worse.
Exactly. Yeah, because they can take that situation and say, well, she did say that she edited the photos, but she said she edited it because it needed to be a little bit brighter so that you could actually see the mark on her face.
And that's understandable. But if she's lying, then they go back and probably think, well, what else is she lying about?
And it's in the jury instructions. Juries are allowed to determine how credible they feel a witness is. And if they find a witness not credible, then they are told. I mean, you can essentially throw out everything they say, because they're not credible. How do you know what they're lying about and what they're not lying about?
Absolutely.
That's part of their jobs as fact finders. So don't give them a reason to not believe everything that you've said. And that's not the only time she does this. She does this when being confronted with previous depositions and previous testimonies that she's given. It's not just one time that she does that. So again, it just does her an incredible disservice.
Well, absolutely. And we could talk about this. I could talk about this all day long, apparently. But whether or not she was coached by her team to do this, or whether this was her choice to get on the stand, and it makes her feels stubborn. It feels, I don't know if aggressive is the right word. It's like egotistical, stubborn.
No, I think it does feel aggressive too, because you've got somebody saying, "Look, I know that these are the same picture, and one is edited and the other one isn't." And she's saying, "I got up and I turned a light on. What you are seeing and know to be true is not reality."
Gaslighting.
So then that would definitely lend credibility to Johnny's testimony that she behaves that way when they argue.
Because the bitch doing it right now.
Yeah, I seen her do it. Like, yeah. And so she said, she talks about the first time that he hit her, that he slapped her across the face. She says that he then hit her total 3 times that night. And Johnny's testimony is absolutely not. None of that happened. Next, Amber Heard testified about the 2016 leaked video that we talked about earlier, the TMZ, where he is hitting the cabinets and stuff. Amber said she recorded it that day because Johnny wouldn't remember, and he's clearly intoxicated in this. I mean, it's possible he may not have remembered that.
But I do think that it was important. His lawyers were on it, because they were like, where you say, objection, that's the word, speculation. And the judge is like, sustained. Like, you can't, because your opinion, he might fall down drunk. He might look out of his motherfucking gourd, but you're not allowed to say on the stand, well, he wouldn't remember. Well, how do you know?
Yeah, exactly. That's true. So, like we said, the video that had been leaked was not the full video. It was just a small clip. So when Amber's attorney, Ben Rottenborn, asks Johnny about this, he asks him if he had poured himself a mega pint of wine, and actually Johnny kind of acts like he doesn't know what he's talking about, but apparently he used the term mega pint
in a deposition
or something. So I don't know. But
did
anyway,
you say
maybe he just laughs about it.
Amber's lawyer, Ben Rottenborn, he's the one who questions him about it, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Johnny says, okay, yeah, I poured myself a large glass of wine. And he says, but what I find most interesting about Amber recording this incident is because of her behavior at the end, which is where she's smirking and kind of has this like, haha, gotcha face or whatever. He also stated that he assaulted cabinets that day, not Amber Heard. And while that is technically true, that is also a manipulation of that situation, because we know, I hope that everybody understands that if somebody is, especially a partner like that, a spouse, whatever, if they are breaking things in front of you, throwing things across the room, and that makes you feel any type of fear, that's still abuse.
If they are getting
It's not
violent
okay.
or aggressive, it does not have to be at you or towards you. It can be around you.
Absolutely.
If it makes you uncomfortable, get your heart rate up, you feel like uneasy, that's abuse.
And if you are then, kind of tampering your behavior, your words, because you're afraid that he's going to go ballistic and start throwing shit or breaking shit or whatever, I mean, that's abusive. So another thing that we're not going to do is say that only Amber Heard was abusive in this relationship and Johnny never was. It is not a situation, this in particular is not a situation where one person was abused and the other person was not. They were toxic and absolute heads to each other. Like, there's no question about it. He should not have behaved this way. This does not help him. I would much rather have heard him say, I absolutely should not have lost my cool there. I should not have thrown things or hit things. That's not appropriate. And, whatever.
Rather than downplay it, dismiss it, and laugh it off. Because...
Exactly. I assaulted cabinets that day, not Miss Heard. Like, okay,
Right.
Well, but you shouldn't have. And
Yeah.
it's still scary
Yeah.
for people around you. The next abuse allegation was from Amber's birthday in April of 2016. So remember, Johnny arrived about an hour and 40 minutes late for her birthday dinner, and she was super duper upset. Johnny alleges that Amber, quote, squared off with him about his tardiness, but Amber alleges that he shoved her. And Johnny says that he knew that she wanted to fight, so he told her, go ahead and hit me. And she did. And then he said, fine, do it again. And she did. Then he grabbed her by the shoulders and walked her over to the bed and sat her down. He then says that he told her not to follow him, and then he left to go back to the other house. And this is a situation where there were a lot of witnesses because it was her birthday dinner. There was like a bunch of people there for the birthday dinner. The witnesses agree that she was fucking pissed.
Which, okay, like, I would be pissed too.
And I would also say that is showing up an hour and 40 minutes late for your spouse's birthday dinner the equivalent to striking them abusive? No. Does it send a message and does it convey I don't respect you enough to be here on time? Yes, it does. And does it convey that message to all the people that got there on time for this birthday dinner? Yes, it does. I completely understand her feeling small and disrespected because of that.
Sure.
And he, would go on to explain that's the day he found out about this tax stuff and he was upset about it and he was trying to work that out and all that stuff. Whatever. You can let somebody know that that's what's going on. It's your wife's birthday dinner. But, so again, I'm not going to say, because there are plenty of situations in the trial where there are photos of property having been damaged. Like Johnny took apart her closet one night, pulled all the shelves down, all that stuff. That is absolutely not okay.
Right.
Like it just is not okay. And I know like you and I have talked about this, that show Maid on Netflix. Is it called Maid or The Maid?
It's just called Maid.
Just Maid, yeah.
Like M-A-I-D, Maid.
Yes. And what is it? Andy McDowell's daughter?
Yes.
Plays the main character. It's just like her mom. But anyway, one of the things that she says in that series, which really struck me, when she was going to the like domestic violence
like the social worker
housing,
or something.
Yeah. She was trying to get help, right? Because she wanted to get out of this relationship. She had been under coercive control for so long and he wasn't allowing her to work and like all these things. He threw something, a glass or something, close enough to her head that it shattered, and she was holding their daughter at the time. So, and it scared her, but it did not hit her. So she says in one of the episodes, well, he never actually hit me, so I guess this doesn't count, right? Like I can't claim that he was abusive and I can't really be upset because he didn't hit me. And the woman that was working with her was like, that's absolutely still abuse. Like it just is. So I don't know. I guess I just want like anybody watching this, if you're in a situation where you have a partner who is breaking things in front of you and it scares you and they get violent, maybe not directly with you, but with anything else around you, you're not wrong to feel scared about that.
And I would also even just, this is resonating with me. And this is a quote from Amber Heard. It came out during the trial, but it was one of the recordings that they had made, right? And it's not to say, I'm not saying like, see what Amber does. I'm just using it as an example of if somebody says this to you, whether or not it's a Johnny or whether or not it's an Amber, I don't know. But she says, you haven't been punched, okay?
I hit you.
But you haven't been punched.
But you have not been punched. That really did a lot for me as far as this goes. Because her recording specifically said, because he says, you decked me, I think was the word he used, decked me. And she's like, oh my God, Johnny, I did not deck you. I did not fucking deck you. I did not
you're such
punch
a
you.
Baby.
Mm-hmm. She said, I can't remember exactly the position of my hand, if it was closed or open or whatever, but I did not fucking punch you. You were hit. You were not punched.
All I'm saying is,
nobody can tell you how you felt about something. And,
that's what he comes back and says. Don't tell me. I'm going to try to do the voice. Don't tell me I was fucking punched.
That's so Johnny. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just none of it's okay. If you're in a situation like that, please understand that if you're being manipulated to feel like you're making a big deal out of nothing, that's not true.
Absolutely.
And
there are resources.
Yes, there are absolutely resources. Please be safe. But this is the end of part 1, you guys.
Yes,
we're going to pick up on, we have so much more. We're going to pick up with part 2, where we're going to hear some testimony about who shit the bed.
If you need another, because sometimes, apparently this happens a lot, but there's It's Always Sunny episode about another who pooped the bed incident as well. So you need that in between. But yeah, that's where we're going to pick it up. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We love you, and we will catch you next episode.